Hi there, I'm Marilyn Abrahamson, brain health coach, and welcome to my channel. If you're in your 50s or beyond, you might have noticed some surprising changes in your memory, like forgetting what you've walked into the kitchen for, or losing your train of thought in the middle of a sentence, or blanking out on a name that you definitely used to know. And you may be wondering, is this normal or should I be worried? In today's video, we're going to be talking about menopause and memory and what's normal and what should spark concern. So let's clear up the confusion and give you a little peace of mind. So first, let's start by talking about what's normal. Hormonal changes, especially the drop in estrogen, can absolutely affect how your brain functions. Estrogen supports key brain areas like the hippocampus, which is your memory center, and the prefrontal cortex right here, where your planning and your focus happens. We call those executive function skills. So when those levels start to shift, so does your mental clarity. So here are some common and very normal memory changes that many women experience during menopause. The first one is forgetfulness, like putting things down and not remembering where you put them, or forgetting appointments, things like that. You may have trouble focusing. That's the second one. And this happens especially in noisy or very distracting, overwhelming places. There's also those tip of the tongue moments where you feel like you have a name or a word at the tip of your tongue, but you struggle to retrieve it. And then there's what I call mental fatigue. People can call it feeling of fogginess, but it just feels like your brain has to work harder than it used to. And these changes are very real, but the good news is that they're typically temporary and there are plenty of ways to support your brain and feel more like yourself again. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to, make those easier for you. But let's first talk about what's not normal. When memory problems sort of go beyond typical midlife brain fog. And these are just a few signs that it might be time to maybe talk to a doctor. But the first one is memory loss that disrupts your daily life. Things like an example of that would be sort of like if you get lost going to a familiar place. The second one is when you're being told that you've been repeating the same question or the same story over and over again. Sometimes we do tell lots of different people a story and then we kind of lose track of who we've told. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about, repeatedly telling the same person the same story over and over again. There's also things like significant personality or behavior changes, or even trouble managing daily tasks like paying bills or following a recipe, or even just using some familiar tech like your smartphone or your computer and having trouble with those things. And the last thing would be sort of a noticeable progressive decline in thinking skills over time. So those are things, if you or if someone close to you is experiencing changes like that, then it is important to rule out other causes like problems with thyroid, vitamin deficiencies, potential early dementia, but, certainly talk to your doctor about it. Let's swing back for a minute and talk about what you can do, though, about the normal stuff that we talked about. These are going to help lift the fog and certainly support your brain. And you can do these starting right now. So number one, the first one I mentioned before was forgetfulness. We all experience, forgetfulness once in a while, right? So something you can do is use visual cues. Like if you forget where you put your keys, then put a bowl or a hook or something for your keys and always put it right in that bowl or on that hook. Make a habit of it. Another thing you can do is say it out loud. So for example, I've told this story to some of my clients where when I used to drive to work in the morning, I would always get to the stop sign at the end of my block and forget if I closed my garage. So what I would have to do is back up and look up the driveway. it should be noted that I never forgot. It was always closed. But what I started doing was saying it out loud. I just closed the garage door. And then when I got to the stop sign, I knew I had done it. And really all that does is it just sort of forces you to pay attention. And that's really the key. Most of this is all just we're throwing our keys down or leaving the driveway and just not paying attention. You can also, try some apps if you're forgetful. There's Apple Notes in your phone. There are things for task management. I use AnyList. You can use your Echo or, Siri on your phone. You can set reminders, things like that. Number 2, trouble focusing. Basically, cut out the distractions. Focus on one task at a time. Take 2-minute brain breaks when you need it. Use noise-canceling headphones or maybe soft background music. I like to play piano music in the background. It just helps me get centered. Some apps that would help are things like Calm. There's something called Insight Timer. They both have short guided meditations. The Balance app actually has, when I signed up, it was giving away free memberships for a full year. So take a look at that. Number 3, if you're having trouble finding words, then practice language retrieval with reading and puzzles and naming exercises. But when you really get stuck in that moment, describe what you're trying to say and say it out loud. It activates other pathways in the brain. Just try to describe around it. If the person that's listening, knows what you're describing, then you won't have to worry about finding the word. There are apps. There's one called Elevate. There's one called Brain HQ. You can also do words with friends. That's always great if word finding is becoming a problem for you. And number 4, for mental fatigue. These are lifestyle things that you can do. Prioritize good sleep. Get some exercise. Make sure you're hydrated. One of the first symptoms of dehydration can be brain fog. So make sure you're drinking enough, especially today here in New Jersey, it's 97 degrees. Eat brain healthy foods like salmon and walnuts and berries and leafy greens. And then there are some apps that you can help. There's the Sleep Cycle app. If you have an Apple Watch, you can get that to track your sleep. There's Fitbit, things like that. I use something called Healthy with an I at the end, and it helps me to sort of eat more mindfully. I have to put the foods in there, so I have to kind of pay attention to what I'm eating. It's really just about lifestyle. So here are some final thoughts. Some forgetfulness or brain fog during menopause, totally normal. If you're worried about something more seriously going on, trust your gut and talk to your doctor. The key really is to be aware and to be proactive. Your brain is still powerful and it's adaptable and it's worthy of your attention. You don't have to figure it out all alone. So if this video gave you some clarity, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode. And before we go, tell me in the comments, what is one memory hiccup that you've had that made you laugh or made you wonder if something was up? And if you want more support or if you're interested in working with me, visit my website at longliveyourbrain.com for personalized brain health coaching designed just for women in midlife and beyond. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay sharp, stay strong, and stay you.